Hi, exploring whiskey people.
Welcome back to Exploring Whiskeys. I'm Eric.
And I'm Kevin. And today, we're back to another special episode of reviewing whiskeys from the whiskey club that Eric and I both belong to.
Putting the blazers back on.
Yeah. It's an interesting look, especially when you rock the t-shirt underneath with writing. The theme for this one was finished whiskeys. We went through a series of 5 different whiskeys that had some kind of a finish to them. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to be bourbons or any of that. They can't have those monikers, but they might have started as a bourbon or a rye and then were finished in some kind of, usually a wine barrel of some sort. But we had one twist to that. So
First one? Rabbit Hole.
Yes. So Rabbit Hole, which is really right up in Kentucky.
It's right in Louisville.
Right in Louisville. This is going to be started as a bourbon. It's actually a unique mash bill for this bourbon.
That.
Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting. They went through and created a whole new mash bill just specifically for this particular bourbon. It used to just be referred to as the finish in PX sherry cask, and we'll get to what the PX stands for later because I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's a specific type of sherry. Then when
Pernod Ricard
purchased them in the recently. Yeah, just a handful of years ago. They, as a nod to the founder, they renamed a lot of their standard lines to different things relating to his life. This Dareringer is now what it's called, is referred as a little nod to his wife. Ready?
Yeah, I am.
Let's do this.
Very sweet to the nose, still.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. A sherry cask is going to add a whole lot of that. It's a specific sherry. It's Pedro Jimenez, I believe is how it's pronounced, is the PX. They don't share a specific age on their whiskeys, but this is a 93 proof, and that usually spends around 6 months in the finishing barrel. Outside of sweet, there's not a crazy amount of nose.
Mm-hmm. Some fruit, a little bit of caramel. I mean, the first taste, again, for me, it's that I get a heavy cherry. Yeah,
there's a lot of cherry. There's a decent amount of the oak tannin, like bite that you get off of the barrel. There's a decent amount of that in there, but there's a lot of sweet notes. That's really, especially at the end, that's a lot of candy. The finish is just candy.
This is a good one for after dinner, though.
Yeah, a lot of sweetness.
That dessert whiskey.
Yes, that's exactly what this is. A lot of sweetness. 93 proof's going to have a solid amount of warmth to it, but it's not going to bite too hard.
Yeah, it's there's no burn. It's pretty smooth.
Well, second note is the barrel tannin kind of slipped away. A lot of sweet. That dark cherry, darker fruits is really what I get a lot of off of that.
A lot of the really sweet ones, for me, it's always sweet on the front, like on the front of the tongue. But this one, for me, is sweet almost all the way through.
I got a little bit more.
I pick up the oak more on the aftertaste.
I was going to say, I just did the aerating. A little bit more oak on that.
Yeah.
That kind of popped out a lot. That's kind of an interesting. A lot of times when you aerate, the sweet seems to come up more. This actually brought up something different.
Or sometimes it gets hotter.
Overall, it's good. It's an interesting twist to it. It's going to add a little more sweetness to it. It's good for something a little bit different, but...
Got some zest on that one, a little orange.
Really? I have not gotten any citrus.
Faint, but I got that on the third one.
This one runs MSRP around $80 range.
But they have what? Is it 5 or 6 different?
Yeah, they have a number of different ones in the line.
Lineup.
Yeah, they've done a lot, and they do different finishings. They've done a lot of different things with their lineup. So it's kind of an interesting one to kind of go explore maybe.
I enjoyed the theme of this meeting that we had a couple weeks ago. The finished.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat idea.
It's not something I typically buy, but being able to
Sample
branch
a
out a
bunch.
little bit and
Yeah.
sample. No, it was a good theme.
Overall, pretty solid whiskey. Maybe not worth the $80. I'd probably invest that in something else. But
It's
if
been like 50 to 60.
yeah, if you have the option to try it, it's a pretty solid drinker. Again, especially for a dessert.
Yeah.
So, not too bad. Hole Dareringer. Now we're going to switch over. This one might look familiar.
Angel's Envy.
This is the port finished. Yep, port finished. So we actually already did a review of this particular whiskey, finished whiskey, I don't know, previously. That was from a request that we got to talk about some Angel's Envy. Things I remember from that are it's sourced
Yep.
juice, and then they finish all of everything they do is finished. They always do some kind of a finishing to their whiskeys.
The rumor is it's from Brown Foreman.
Brown Foreman, that's correct. Yeah, I remember that now. But overall, it's I remember it being pretty good. A lot of peanut notes and a lot of
Peanut butter and jelly.
The jelly or the grate coming off of that, the end of that.
Let's see if we get it again.
Yeah, I'm interested to see.
This is another one right downtown Louisville,
Yeah,
just around the corner from Rabbit Hole. I get the peanut, but not as strong as I remembered it.
no, I'm going to say I get a little bit of an ethanol note
Yep.
that has that mustiness of that dry peanut. Could also be like a dry corn must. I'm not sure. So again, it's a bourbon whiskey because it's finished. They age it in the range of, no, they don't really say, but let's just call it around 5 to 6 years. And then they spend about 6 months in the port barrel at the end.
That's pretty standard though when you're finishing something else, right?
Yeah, I think the 3 to 6 months tends to
Yeah.
be, because if not, it's going to
I think
overpower it
yeah.
probably, and then you lose the bourbon notes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. This does not have the same. It's there, that
very
peanut
faint.
note, but it's not nearly the same. I wonder if it's possibly coming off of a previous whiskey. So that is going to be something that particular show, we were doing that episode in a certain order with certain whiskeys. Now we're doing this one in a certain order with certain whiskeys, and it's just going to change your palate.
I got the more peanut on the first taste,
Yeah.
way more than on the nose.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Yeah. It's still not as strong as I recall from just, a little while ago, a couple weeks ago. That's crazy. But it's there. And the sweetness, last time it took us a little while to find that sweetness. This time it's right at
Yep.
the end of it. Like it comes through as peanuts and then it's super sweet at the end of it. This bottle is 86.6 proof.
About $50-ish.
50-ish
Depending on the
dollars.
market.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live.
Yeah, how close you are to Kentucky. I'm not sure what their distribution's like. Very corn. There is 72% corn, 18% wheat. Nope, rye.
Oh, rye.
It's a rye. That's right.
10% malted barley.
Yeah, that's right. It's a rye, which does not come through.
No. Could fool Kevin on this one.
The peanut is really strong, and I'm not getting nearly as much of the fruit flavor there for like a peanut butter and jelly. It's very strong peanut. But again, that last one was so sweet, it may have muted some of those notes that we picked up the last time.
Very sweet when you aerate it, but then it just
Kind
goes
of
right to
disappears.
that.
It goes right to the peanut.
The peanut.
Overall, it's a solid bourbon. Something neat to try. If you want to see a little bit more detail and us talking through it, you can hit back to the previous episode where we focus specifically on that one. We'll link it down in the bottom.
This one I would drink before dinner, though. The other one is an absolute after-dinner drink, though.
Yeah, this isn't so overly sweet it's going to like ruin your palate. That one is, that Rabbit Hole is very sweet. Not bad. All right. I'm saying we hold on to the ones we just used.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think that's going to impact this. Mm-mm. You will notice there's one bottle that still has some left.
Yes.
Yeah, Pike Creek. Canadian whiskey.
Canadian whiskey.
Finished in a rum barrel.
Not my jam.
If you are a fan of extra sweet, syrupy
Rum.
Even before you get to the rum, Canadian whiskeys themselves
Yeah, they're
are
light. They're
super
so much
sweet.
lighter.
Cherry-ish notes a lot of times, or some kind of a, but overly sweet kind of candy notes, maple syrup type notes. That's what you start with in Canadian whiskey, and then they finish it in a rum cask, which is just going to add so much more sweet. So overall, Pike Creek is a 10-year Canadian whiskey, and then finished in the rum barrels for, again, like that 3 to 6 year range of some sorts, and is a blended whiskey. So it's a combination of a couple different Canadian whiskeys from their line before it even goes into the rum cask. So let's crack this open. Get some super sweet notes.
Yep, right out of the gate. I feel like it's Captain Morgan in my glass. Not as spicy as a Captain Morgan, but it's very strong rum.
That sweet rum Coke type note is very.
And that was the consensus during our whiskey club meeting.
Absolutely.
I mean, everyone's initial right off the nose was, "Whoa,
that's a lot of sweetness."
It's a lot of sweetness. It's a lot of rum. Everyone kind of took a sip, and still, even with no Coke in here, people are still saying they felt like they were drinking a rum and Coke.
I'm sure this is just the influence of the thought, but is there a little bit of a coconut note in there? I'm getting a little like rum and Coke, but like the coconut rum is kind of a little bit of
Malibu.
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
That is a Pernod Ricard rum.
Is it?
Yeah, but wrong one. But
I mean,
you know what? Now you say it. You put it in my head.
Now power of suggestion kicks in.
Yep.
I mean, it is a lighter color for a 10-year, but again, I think we've talked about that is a lot of the color gets pulled off of the barrel as it's temperature changing, and I want to say this is, Ontario, Canada.
Cold most of the time.
It's not going to fluctuate that much. It's going to go from kind of warm to really cold.
They should do a little experimental series and drop a few barrels down in
Texas.
Yeah, or here.
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Ooh. That just got real medicinal. Like cough syrup. I just got a really...
Some rum, some honey. It's still ridiculously sweet.
Yeah. There's I don't know. There's like a twinge of artificialness. Wonder if they color it.
Some vanilla. Need some fake vanilla.
Yeah. Yes. I'm wondering if they put some kind of a coloring to it to make it look more appealing.
A little shade or two darker.
Yeah, shade or two darker. There's a little artificial funk in there.
I think it's vanilla. Well, you could throw this in some cola and sell it as a rum and Coke. And
Yes, you could.
I'm sure there's not a lot of people that question it.
No, they wouldn't have a problem with it. Proof-wise, 42% alcohol, so 84 proof. That'll hold up. It's not going to overpower anything you put it in.
Nope.
But it'll hold up. But yeah, what is that? I don't know. That's some kind of an artificial note to it. Not just, there's a whole lot of sweetness. There's no question about that. A lot of honeys and...
Yeah, I get the rum, the honey, and some vanilla.
Yeah.
That's really kind of it.
It's not a complex whiskey. Don't expect it to be. That's another category I want to try to explore. I'm sure there's a good Canadian whiskey out there. And I'd love to hear a suggestion of one. But I always have that Canadian Mist, the Crown Royal, Seagram 7. Like I have this in my head of what Canadian whiskey is, and it's always, it's fine to mix with. That's
yes,
about
exactly. I've tried to drink it on its own, and when I first dabbled in like bourbon on the rocks, there was an event I went to, and it was a Canadian whiskey on the rocks, and it was not the same. Would not recommend it.
Just switching from working on bourbons, yeah, I could see that not being a good switch or anywhere near comparable. Mm-mm. Well, I mean, overall, it's not a bad whiskey. It's not a very expensive whiskey, $32-ish. So it's not
priced. I think at the right price point.
It's not a bad.
I wouldn't go much more than that. I could probably go a few dollars below that, but no, I wouldn't go much higher.
Yeah, but it's not. It's fine. It's not something that it's not something I'd recommend necessarily, but interesting idea to take an already sweet whiskey and finish it in something even more sweet to come up with a combination. Previously, they used to finish their whiskeys in port. They used to do port cask. That'd be maybe interesting because it's a darker sweetness to it versus the light sweet that you get out of this whiskey and rum.
I'm sure there's still some hanging around.
It's a possibility. It's a good possibility.
Next up, Amador.
This is kind of an interesting one. I had swore I had this before. There's another one that has a very similar name that I had.
White label. There's one, yeah.
Yes, but it's not the same thing.
The only reason I know that is because I know where it's distilled, and it's not too far from where I grew up.
Oh, there you go. Okay. This whiskey is actually, this has a lot of interesting ties back to Napa Valley, the wine country of for the United States. All of their whiskey is sourced. Mm-hmm. They don't disclose, so we're going to take a wild guess and maybe call it MGP, something.
Somewhere in southern Indiana.
Exactly. But then what they do is they take it and they age it in some of their own wine barrels. That's what they know. They know aging.
But they don't disclose.
They don't disclose what they age it in. And the company that owns this particular brand also owns Sutter Home, which when you hear that, you kind of, oh, well, that's nice.
White Zinfandel.
Menage a Trois is also it's a pretty solid red wine, and they have a pretty extensive line. I'm sure they have a handful of other ones. All those vineyards out there seem to have like 3 or 4 different main lines that they work through. So the same idea as before. They're taking a bourbon and turning it around. It's sourced, so there's no age statement. There's no rumors at all that I could find anything about this particular, what this juice is before it gets over to California. And then it sits in those wine barrels for about 6 months. It's kind of a running theme. Overall, I don't remember the wine having a major impact to this. No. It was mostly just tasted like MGP whiskey, bourbons.
Yeah, I remember this one smelling young.
I guess I could see that. Well, that's interesting. There's a bottle. Batch number 4, bottled on January 2019. Batch number 4.
The notes on this one is the 3 to 10 year.
Yeah,
it's a big.
That's right. It's a huge range of what they're picking from. Which, that's kind of the convenient part of MGP. They have a massive production and aging area. Like, you can kind of go through and really pick what you're looking for, and these people are, experts in the aging in wine barrels, so they know exactly what notes they're looking for. I'm going to combine these together and get a bourbon that, once it's put into whatever barrel, whatever type of wine it is, it's going to have a very specific note. So it's kind of an interesting experiment.
I go batch number 4 is young, though. It smells young to me.
Yeah, there's some sharper notes on there. There's a lot of ethanol on that one.
Yeah.
86.8 proof. And totally lied. It actually says Chardonnay barrels on this one.
Oh.
They have another line where they don't disclose what they age it in. Yeah, there's a lot of really sharp ethanol notes off that nose.
Yeah, ethanol, I get cinnamon, but I'm not getting much else.
That's interesting. It drinks a lot smoother than it smells.
Yeah. Yep.
That nose is really sharp and young, but I guess, and that would make sense. Chardonnay is kind of a mellower, sweeter wine. It would kind of mellow out some of those sharper edges of a younger bourbon. I don't feel like I get a whole lot of Chardonnay notes out of that.
The buttery note from a Chardonnay, a buttery Chardonnay.
It's not.
I like the rabbit hole better than this one. This one falls more in the sweeter.
Yeah.
I mean, Pine Creek's in its own level. But I would take the Dareringer over this one, especially if it's going to be an after dinner bourbon, whiskey.
It's also half the price. Yeah. It's $42 versus the $80. But I'm going to kind of agree with you, but I'd almost steer towards the Angel's Envy. I kind of prefer, like, at least that it's closer in price range, and the notes are more interesting.
Yeah.
This is just young, sharp whiskey that's mellowed out a little bit with Chardonnay. Interesting experiment. I wonder what would happen if they didn't do, well, I don't know. They say 3 to 10 year, but it's got to be way closer to that 3.
Yeah. Well, at least batch number 4 is.
Maybe if they went closer to, an 8-ish, 6 to 8 year range, so it's already starting to pull some of those more whiskey notes, bourbon notes out of the barrel, and then do that. But yeah, it's just kind of young and sharp.
I need more of that bourbon bite. And then finish with the sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no bite to that. That's really weird that it's such a sharp ethanol note on the nose. It disappears quick, too. Mm-hmm. There's not a lingering, it just kind of drops off.
Yeah. Again, it was a nice bottle for the lineup and the theme, but I prefer one of the other ones.
Yeah, the Angel's Envy and the Rabbit Hole, definitely very solid picks. The Canadian, no. This isn't bad. It's a little young. I think a little longer, and that could be a more interesting bottle with a little bit older whiskey to start with.
Some older juice.
All right. Now, like we said, most things are finished in a port or some kind of a wine. We did have a rum. Now we have
our first IPA.
An IPA. So Jameson took their regular hooch, their straight line, and they've done a lot of these Caskmates. They've done a porter one, which I really want to try. I've heard it's actually really amazing.
We've had the coffee.
It's actually really good. It's very good. Jameson has done a lot of different things with their distilling efforts and all the kind of different stuff they do between the Redbreast and even their own whiskey, which once you get it into a certain age, it's pretty good whiskey. So
Redbreast is delicious.
Yeah, Redbreast 12 and 15, but there's a Jameson 18 that my understanding is actually it's a solid Irish whiskey. Yeah, I was going to say, imagine that for an Irish whiskey, it's 80 proof.
Yeah.
Which makes a whole lot of sense. That's kind of the theme for most Irish and Scotch. It's 80 to 86.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Price point, we're what, 30-ish?
30-ish.
$35.
Yeah, right in that ballpark. Overall, so we'll throw another commentary on my interests. I'm not an IPA person, so
darker the better for Kevin.
Yeah, I love a dark beer. A porter, a stout are way more my speed for beers. So just that as a note already kind of like my brain triggers.
Not gonna lie,
and I'm gonna mess with you. My brain triggers grapefruit.
Okay.
Every time I have an IPA beer, it tastes like carbonated grapefruit juice beer mixed with beer. It's a really weird, but that's something in my brain.
There are some good grapefruit beers out there, but
yeah, well, I know you like your sours and your and all those things. So I definitely could see how that would work, but yeah, we'll just reuse the last glasses. I don't think that's gonna overpower this.
Yeah, I get apple right out of the gate.
Apple. So you get the light Irish notes then. The fruit's not usually the Irish notes. It's usually more of a bready.
I get apple, some cinnamon.
I have the apple there, but I also get real. Yeah, that IPA. I do get that. Yeah, it's not a note I like. Again, I like the effort. I actually think the whole thing. Try and see what happens when you age it in something else. I mean, that's where we're at. We're at the point where I'm sure everything that could have been done is done. Now we got to figure out, okay, what happens if you take it from here to here to here? So
we've got another bourbon or whiskey we'll do here in another episode that is very strong in the Granny Smith, and they do a mid 80 and they do 100 proof. It's pretty good.
The flavor is better than the nose for me. There is a lot of, it's green apple. That's not even the green apple. It's more a gala apple, like that lighter, like light apple note. It's there, but it's not like an overpowering red delicious, and it's not like that sour.
Granny Smith.
Yeah, Granny Smith, yes.
Yeah. The Gala, the Fuji.
Yes, those blends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
the red and the yellow.
Yeah. It's funny. It's not as bad as I remember. I did not. As soon as I heard IPA, I poo-pooed that immediately.
You judge the book by the cover.
I totally did. There's a lot of grain notes. Like,
aerating didn't help.
That's great. Okay.
Not for me.
Well, I'll try that on the next sip, just to see if I go the same way. But there's a lot of grain here. So I know this is a blend. It's a blended whiskey. So it's the regular pot still, and it is a Irish grain whiskey blended together and then aged in the beer barrel. No, it didn't mess it up for me. I don't think it. I didn't think I had high hopes of it to start with. So it didn't mess it up with me. There's a lot of grain.
Yeah.
Like that grain part of the Irish grain whiskey is really coming through, like the musty, earthy.
It's got
grassy?
It's got a weird aftertaste.
Mm-hmm. And you can't place it. It's there, but you can't place it.
I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah,
it's not what I'm enjoying.
Yeah, well, it's different. There is, the IPA isn't coming across super strong right now, though I really remember it coming across much stronger last time, or at the meeting.
Well, we got to roll the coffee one. I enjoyed the coffee one.
That is a very interesting caskmate. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's a grainy note. Like, I don't know. I can't place exactly what it is. Like, wheat. It's just kind of like and I know it's not wheat, but there is a grain, earthy kind of note that's sitting in the back of that. Mulch type. That is, I don't know what it is. Earthy, yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's not necessarily a great note. Hell of an experiment.
It goes from apples to something completely different.
There's an apple in the very beginning,
and
then it just kind of changes into something else. Interesting experiment. Like I said, to your point, I want to try. I think we got to do a coffee one. There's a stout one. I think it is. I heard that one is.
It's up your alley, man.
Yeah, it's up my alley to start with, and I heard it's actually really good. Overall, I think it was a great experiment to go through and see what finishing different whiskeys, bourbons.
How would you rank them?
How'd I rank them?
I keep them 1, 2.
I think that's right. I'd switch those.
Finish with that, or finish with the rum blast. I would put that last.
Man, that's a really close tie. I mean, at least that's just sweet. But started getting that weird artificial note out of there that bothered me. That earthy note doesn't quite bother me as much. So I'm gonna have to.
Fourth.
Yeah, no,
Tie for fifth.
I think that one would be fourth, and that one would be fifth.
Tie for fourth. I'm sorry.
I think that's the way I roll. But those two are very good. And yeah, I'd drink those. I'd have no problem having a sip of those at any time. Yeah. Everything else is more of for the experience rather than for the enjoyment.
Or for someone that's in their acquired taste.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing for some of the scotches too.
Yeah. There's definitely some scotches I would think most people would not even get past the initial note to try to enjoy.
No.
So
got a few people in mind that would not.
I would agree, and I actually have a whiskey in mind for that one too.
But no, like I said, I thought this, our whiskey club meeting a couple weeks ago, I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah. To
do the finished line. We've never done that before. I enjoyed it. Some more than others.
That's kind of the point, though.
Yeah.
We try a lot of different. That's the whole point of a whiskey club. Is
Step out of your comfort zone and
try something else.
Something new.
And it kind of forces people to buy things that they would. A lot of people buy the same thing. They have their 3 or 4. Oh, I see that. I'm going to grab that. Well, when you got to pick 5 brand new bottles every meeting, you're going to start experimenting into looking into deeper picks.
Yep.
So it's kind of a great experience for everybody involved, I think.
And this meeting was all newbies.
Yes, everybody that was presenting.
That was a leap of faith on the newbies. That
it really was that this was going to go over.
I thought they were all going to pick their favorite bottle, but kudos to them. They came up with a great theme.
Yeah.
Everyone enjoyed it.
It was a great time.
So. Well, obviously we enjoyed meeting with our friends a couple weeks ago. We enjoyed filming this episode. We hope you enjoyed it as well. If you did, we'd ask you to hit the like button at the bottom.
While you're down there, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you get notified every time we put out a new episode. Leave a comment. Have you tried any of these? Do you have something finished that you like? Better question. Have you found a Canadian whiskey you really like? Because I want to try to find one that's the quintessential Canadian whiskey that I could drink that. That's going to be something that's
higher
good.
Proof one.
Probably, yeah. But sitting around 80 proof is just, whiskey snobs now. Right. Closer to 100 is usually a better proof for us. So.
Well, we appreciate you joining this episode of Exploring Whiskeys. We hope to see you on the next episode.
Thanks very much for watching.
Cheers.